The world turns, and with each turn, a change. And each change makes it more complex, unpredictable, enigmatic. The world keeps turning. And from the Pellicer and Heredia practice, we anticipate everything that is going to happen. Brexit, artificial intelligence, new commercial borders, legal tech. The world keeps turning, and it commands the reliance on international lawyers who are capable of interpreting this new reality with integrity, honesty, and transparency, offering answers to so many new questions. Whatever it is, ask us. At Pellicer and Heredia, we know how.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today on the 17th of November, 2021. Obviously, a different scenario, as we all know, from 2020, and that's the reason why we are talking today on this webinar about the law, the new legal scenario in Spain for non-European British in Spain. Let me introduce you today. On one hand, I've got Richard Hill, Vice President of Brexpats in Spain. Hello, Richard. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Ignacio.
On the other one, we have John Keel. He is a team leader for Brexpats in Spain and translator. Hello, John. Good afternoon.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon.
Then we have on the other side, we've got Pedro Heredia, international lawyer. Hello, Pedro. Can you hear me?
Hello, Ignacio. Good afternoon, everyone.
Right. Today we have this meeting. We consider it was very good to share with all you guys here, whether you are resident, non-resident, and obviously non-European. That's today the topic. We are non-European. We've got a new legal scenario in Spain, and here we go with all the legal issues. We will talk later on about what is a TIE, what was the requirements, what are the actual requirements, because they're getting stricter and stricter, even though sometimes it doesn't make legal sense. And it forces to take us all the way through the courts, and so far so good with that scenario. We have, on the other hand, the options for non-lucrative visa for those who want to stay in Spain more than 6 months, being resident in Spain. They need to comply with certain requirements. And on the other side, we have a golden visa, which obviously later on Pedro will explain what the difference are. Obviously, there are many options of visa or student visa. We've got work visa, entrepreneur visas. And obviously, it will depend on your first requirements and the way of life you're going to come over to Spain and how you're going to put forward your new life here. I'm going to pass over to Richard Hill. Let me say that it's been a privilege to have Richard Hill for so many years. He's been doing so much work for the expat community. And then we are very proud to work with the association so many years together. I'm very happy to help a lot of people. I'm going to pass over to Richard, and he will explain from his view where we are. Over to you, Richard.
Thank you, Ignacio, and hello, everybody. And thank you for your kind words, Ignacio. We are also very grateful for the support that you and Pedro have given the association. And I'm sure many of our members feel the same way. Currently, we've got over 30,000 members, some in Spain, some in the UK, some already registered, the majority in Spain, and some struggling, and I'm using the word struggling, to come over to Spain to start a new life. We've also got the group, and I have to say, I do feel sorry for them, those who considered themselves a European a few years ago and purchased houses in Spain, to which they came for a few months in the winter and in the summer for visits, etc., and now find themselves in a position that they are restricted. We call them swallows. It's not a derogatory term. It's more descriptive. But they're in trouble. and there's not a lot we can do to assist them. Brexpats in Spain has been assisting British through the transition process with Brexit. That is now coming to an end. Those who are applicable under the withdrawal agreement are now becoming few and far between. But what we have to realise is that the UK is now a non-European country. It is a third country status. And it's the same as all the others. It's the same as Americans trying to get in, Australians trying to get in, whatever. And in the next few weeks, you will see a transformation in Brexpats in Spain. We are expanding our focus because we are now the same as Americans, etc., who want to come and live in Spain. There are problems, there are still problems, and we are still dealing with them. I could list them. Driving licenses. I'm sure that Ignacio will say something about that. The problem of family members wanting to come out to Spain. Some in the case of carers who wish to come out to provide care for elderly relatives who live in Spain. People who believe that they are under the withdrawal agreement and are having trouble because they are told that their health insurance didn't start before the 1st of January, or that their padron wasn't dated before the 1st of January. A lot of issues still outstanding on the withdrawal agreement. Then you have the non-lucrative visa, people struggling to get appointments in the UK at the consulate, particularly, I have to say, in London. There are some problems elsewhere, but London is providing a fairly major issue. So at Brexpats in Spain, we are still dealing with a fairly constant source of assistance and problems. And I'm very grateful to say that you, Ignacio and Pedro, and our own team members, our team leader, 𝐿 Davies, have been doing a superb job in assisting these people. And as I'm sure as we go through this meeting, we will try to answer many of the questions that people will put to us. I see they're already starting to come in. So I won't take any more time. I'll pass it back to you, Ignacio.
Okay, thank you very much, Richard. I'm going to pass over to John just to say a few words. Obviously, he's been as well suffering and assisting a lot of expat members all throughout the process. And obviously, he's got a lot of say into the whole thing. So I'm going to pass it over to John to give us just a few recommendations or views. Over to you, John.
Okay, thank you very much, Ignacio. So yes, as everyone is saying, there is a distinct change in the way the administration process, the administration systems view applications now. It doesn't mean it's impossible to get an application for residency through, but you have to know the exacting criteria and what will enable that application to go through. Quite often, even a failed application, as Ignacio has already said, has ways of being appealed. There are two distinct ways of appealing it. One is judicial, as Ignacio already said, and the other is via an administrative appeal. What we are definitely finding now, and this is a significant change, is the administrative appeal fails because they still believe the resolution to the application is the same and it needs to go to a higher entity to be reviewed at a higher level where it is outside of the administration block, i.e. the judicial review. And that, I believe, you're having an awful lot of success with, Ignacio, and it's definitely something that people should hold on to some hope, because that process is definitely there and at the moment it's definitely working. And so from our point of view, and again I would reiterate Richard's words, we are so delighted at Brexpats in Spain to have the full support of people like yourself and Pedro, Ignacio, because people need that level of help at this point.
Well, thank you very much, John. It is our pleasure and we are very proud to be useful for the expat community, you know. Is very rewarding, this job in that respect, because now people are pretty much in a trap, basically, especially the British, because the Americans, they already were there in a trap with these rules, Chinese, Russians, all the non-Europeans were, but it is a different scenario for one of the club members, obviously the European members, now to disconnect from the system and then go into a lot of restrictions, problems, bureaucracy, John, which, to be honest, sometimes doesn't make sense, but we are all down this line, and you already know what I'm talking about, these administrative cases that suddenly they just reject your application, and then probably they didn't even look at the application properly because all the grounds and evidence are there. So, and then you try it again through an appeal, and here we go with all these defendants. So do we appeal through the same police station, or do I take it further through the courts? Now, I'm happy today to say as well, I recently received another court order from the Alicante court granting temporary residency for another family based on the grounds, and it was originally rejected from the police station, and that's really chilling us, and you know, it's really rewarding that we're on the right direction. The frustration, John, here is that people lodge it through, and unfortunately, policemen, depending on where we are or who you're dealing with, they might just say, no, I'm not interested. But we're talking about people's life, people's freedom, people's rights, and it's so frustrating, this situation. But I'm glad to say that we have a very good team of, we already 4 people staff with immigration, Pedro, myself, and we know what we're doing. And at the end of the day, through the courts, John, now we're going to discuss it. What is the situation? What is the actual recommendation from our law firm to those people who are a bit stuck with this problem? I'm going to pass over to Pedro now for him to give us a little bit of tips, and probably we'll jump into questions because we're going to have a lot of them, and we're going to share later on with you some videos about recommendations on the TIE application, etc., etc. Over to you, Pedro.
Oh, thank you, Ignacio. I mean, I fully agree with all of you have said, and it is. I mean, it's all of these situations are. Sometimes there is a solution, a legal solution. Sometimes we need to make a lot of effort in order to combine the legal interpretation plus the energy in order to demonstrate in those cases that someone has been living in Spain and demonstrate in order to have acquired a residency properly. It's been said that one of the situations, or one of the visa that will be able to be applied by the British citizens is a non-lucrative visa, which we are right now finding well, a lot of clients that are suitable in order to fulfill all the requirements in order to obtain a non-lucrative visa. Those requirements obviously are higher. We are talking about under immigration office, there are like 2 queues. 1 queue is for European Union citizens, where the requirements are soft, are lower, I mean, are not. And then the third country is queue, where the requirements are a lot higher. The non-lucrative visa, one of the situations, one of the requirements that needs to be included is that you are not an European Union citizen. And basically the requirements are, I would say, 3 mainly. I mean, there are more, but mainly 3 is not have any criminal record. Obviously, you need to demonstrate with authentication of criminal records from the last 5 years of residency that you don't have any criminal record. Then is to have access to the health system, private or public. I mean, that you will not be charged into the social security, into the Spanish health system. So you need to, I would say that 95% of the situations, you need to first year to, I mean, to apply for an insurance policy, a private one for the first year. And the third one, I would say, is the financial means. This is obviously, this is increased if we compare for European Union citizens. For non-European Union citizens, the requirements are higher. What is the minimum one? Well, we always say about 27,000 euros one person plus 7,000 euros every family member. This is what it says in the webpage of a Spanish consulate. This is what has been said. We say that always, but obviously this is the minimum requirements are set by the immigration office. If we had to appeal, obviously the requirements are a little bit higher. We said we're talking about another 5,000 euros more, and every family member, I would say another 1,000, 2,000 euros more. So I don't like when someone says and comes to our office and says, well, I can have minimum amount, that will probably be rejected. So it needs to be in as much as income, as much as savings can be included, but and not to be rushed on the limit because maybe will be rejected. Okay. And obviously one thing that we always say for the non-lucrative visa is that you apply for residency. You get a visa to enter in Spain, and then you get the authorization of residency. Being resident in Spain implies that you will have to declare worldwide income in Spain. That's important. Obviously, avoiding any double taxation between Spain and the UK. And well, at the end, it's something that you need to, whoever once you move into Spain needs to, well, check, prevent, make some simulation. What would be the situation on taxes whenever they move into Spain? And the residence is, I would say, will be given in it's been said that the Manchester Spanish consulate in Manchester is more rapid than London. That's correct. We have our experiences exactly the same. Even though whenever you submit the documents into the Spanish consulate, the authorizations, the immigration office or the Spanish consulate has 3 months to give you an answer. Normally it takes, I say, 1.5 months, 2 months, maybe more, but that you get a positive answer, you get a negative answer. If you get a positive answer, because obviously all the requirements are correct and perfect, then you have 1 month in order to collect the visa, and then you are given 90 days to enter in Spain and be resident. Then you have to apply for an appointment in the immigration office to make the fingerprints, and you will get an identification card, which is a TIE. Important that once you submit, it will take around, well, we'll say 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. It's going to depend on the rapid of the Spanish consulate. And important to know that you have to have the documents really prepared to be valid in the 3 months before submission. Okay, this is basically in 5 minutes time the description of the non-lucrative visa, which is an important visa right now for third countries that wants to retire, wants to live in Spain without working. And I want to mention that without working, because this is technically what the rules on this specific act says is not to work. It's really focused. It was really prepared for, like say, we say millionaires, people that do not need to work in Spain, have plenty of savings to live in Spain without working. Right now, it's been studied, it's been drafted, a pre-act in order to be able to get those who wants to move into Spain not to work for Spanish companies, but work for international companies that do not affect to a job into Spain. So it's really not to work in Spain, but work through computers, through the telematic, through different companies in the world. Right now, this visa is being pre-approved. It's going to be changed, probably some rules, and will be approved in probably the following months. That would be an issue. Obviously, right now, what we say is that for the non-lucrative visa, if someone is working outside, well, it's something that you need to demonstrate, and this is the key point, you need to demonstrate that you don't need to work, that you have plenty and enough savings or income to live in Spain without working. Okay, having said that, once you want to renew, because the non-lucrative visa is for 1 year, then plus 2 years and plus 2 years and plus 5 years. So after 1 year, you renew it 2 years more and then 2 years more. In order to renew, you need to demonstrate that you've been resident in Spain. And that is the difference really for the golden visa. The golden visa is an investment visa, as the word says, investment, you need to invest. And the minimum investment, I would say 95% of the situations of the files is an investment on property, which is the minimum amount is 500,000 euros. You need to demonstrate that you have invest 500,000 euros after the validity of the act, which was on the 24th of September of 2013. So if someone has bought a property in 2015, on 14, in 2016, 19, last year, that counts into a part of the investment, yes. It could, someone has already invested 400,000 euros and now invest for another 100,000 euros or more. That will be able to be counted and added in order to demonstrate an investment for the golden visa, yes. Okay, the requirements are more or less the same with the criminal records. It's sufficient money that you need to demonstrate that even though you are allowed to work, that you don't need to work. If in case you want to work, that would be also a possibility with the golden visa. But you need to demonstrate investment, criminal records, that you have sufficient money, and basically is that. But I want to mention that people think that golden visa will reject you to be attracted in order to pay taxes in Spain. That's not true. The general rule and the key point here is that if you spend more than 183 days in Spain, then you are tax resident. And if you are tax resident, you need to declare your worldwide income in Spain and declare and pay taxes accordingly to the double taxation treaties between Spain and any country. So you can get the golden visa, but if you spend more than 183 days in Spain on a natural year from the 1st of January to the 31st of December, then you will become tax residents. So can you live in Spain 5 months and 29 days? Perfect, you will not be tax resident. Can you be, so that's the key point. With a non-lucrative visa, you need to be resident to renew. With the golden visa, you don't need to be resident to renew. You can spend just 1 day in Spain and you will be renewed. Always if you maintain the investment. You can sell a property and buy another one. You can sell the properties and then invest in deposits, bank deposit, or any other kind of investment. But you need to maintain really the investment into a Spanish point. And Ignacio, basically this is the difference between a golden visa and non-lucrative visa. Is very rapid, I understand. And obviously I will be happy to answer any specific situation or a scenario, but anyone it would like to be answered.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, Pedro. Over to you, Richard. Yes.
Pedro, there are a couple of questions here. One of the things that Brexpats in Spain deals with is misinformation, and there is so much of it going around. People are getting confused.
Yeah.
So I'd like it from you, please, to just answer a couple of things. The first is on golden visa. If somebody buys a property for 500,000 or more, and it's a couple and they put it in joint names, does that qualify for both of them? Or does it have to be that it's bought in one name and the spouse comes in as a dependent? That's the first question.
Oh, okay. That's a really good question, and we include this question in our guide. We have a guide in the webpage for golden visa, and that specific question is important to understand. Okay, the investment must be 500,000 euros each person. Okay, what if it's a marriage couple that are buying a property of 550,000 euros? In the deed needs to be said that this property is bought under the marriage communal agreement. It's not like separated asset between a marriage. In Spain, for example, we have different kind of regimes. One of them is gananciales, where all the assets are for both of the couples, both of the spouses. And also we have a regime that each asset of each specific thing is for each spouse. So in the deed, whenever someone buys a property as an investment, in order to, if it's less than 1 million euros, is between 500,000 euros and 1 million euros, needs to be said that this property is under the communal matrimonial regime. What it means really, it really means the same, that the property is for both of you 50%. It doesn't say that the specific percentage, but it's both of them the owners. But it needs to be said that, because if you don't say that and you buy a property of 550,000 euros, then will be rejected, because it really has invested is 275, each one of them. So it needs to be said that. What if your matrimonial, what if your agreement by as a marriage do not belongs to the kind of regime, but it needs to be changed. It needs to be changed. How do you change that? Well, it can be done easily in the UK or in Spain before buying the property.
Okay, thank you for that. The second question is on marriage. What is accepted in Spain? Because again, there's a lot of misinformation going around. If somebody is legally married, that's fine. If they've got common law status, as we call it in England, i.e. it's a common law marriage, or they're just living together and can prove it, what's the status in trying to do things?
That's a good question. I would like to be clear, but I think I'm not going to be able to. But obviously, for the post is fantastic. Obviously, in the rules it says spousal partner, and partner, which is a matter of proof in order to demonstrate that you've been at least more. I would say that more than a year living and having been a partner. Obviously, being a partner, the best and fastest situation will be like to demonstrate that you are a civil partner, which has the inscription on the civil partnership registry. And if it is in the Spanish registry, it will be a lot better. The problem that is takes more time. It's easily to do it in this case in the United Kingdom, and but this is a matter of proof. Obviously, with as a partner, is possible to be included and attached with a golden visa, and but it's a matter of proof to be a civil partner. What is a civil registry in the UK? We have had some situation where it's been rejected, or it's been needs to be substantiated with civil registry in Spain, which we call it pareja de hecho in this case. It's like a civil partnership. Obviously, with the spouse is not a problem with the certification of marriage, but whenever it's a spouse, you need to demonstrate that this is not fraud, really. That's the key point, really, in order to demonstrate that it's really happening, is really a partner, but not a partner of last month or 2 months, a minimum of 1 year, I would say. But it's something that is a good question, but you will not find it really in any rule. I don't know if Ignacio would say something about this.
Yes, I was going to add, Pedro, at the end of the day, it's a matter of demonstrating that is true. If in the UK there is not a register because it's not necessary, then you need to prove that you are real, a partner. Now, how do you prove that? The ways, Richard, we did enter into conclusion here. If you have children together, we've done that, okay? Because with the birth certificates and things and rental or a copy of the purchase contracts, direct debit. So the problem with not registration, Richard, is that you need to comply with a lot of evidence supplying to the UK or Spanish embassy over there for them to think that is real, as Pedro stated. Other option you have is to do it in Spain and register. But the average time that is taking here just to register as partners are an average of 8 to 9 months here in Comunidad Valenciana, right? So that really makes things a bit more difficult, but it's a good thing to do for one or two reasons. Inheritance taxes and things like that, or getting pensions. If you register in Spain, is very straightforward and is like a marriage. This is only one reason. The other reason is, as Pedro stated, if you've got that, let's say you are Irish and the other one is American or British, then if you prove your partners, then you could get the European family reunification. So, but again, Richard, if there is not a registry, or even in your home country, you cannot prove that you are a registered couple, then here we go, it's to the discretion of the consulate. And as you said, Probably we're having more problems in one consulate than the other one, which I agree. And it shouldn't make sense, this situation, as if you all go to a strong area office and you lodge it in one desk or in the other. But that's the reality of it. That's why we always insist, Richard, having as much evidence as Pedro stated, try to have as much as possible to convince that your situation is true. Actually, the sentence I just received a few minutes ago from the courts, it clearly says that in general terms, and I will add to what John was saying, in general terms, you have proven reasonably that you are resident in Spain. However, that the police, they just said, John, inadmisión, just rejected, you know? At least the judge runs through all this. Again, the problem I find through the courts, and I'm facing here, is evidence and proving evidence, having the police report, having this, having the other. If people in the UK are partners, I recommend them to gather, if they're going to go down to the non-lucrative visa or the golden visa or whatever they're going to go and prove their relationship, please build yourself a whole bunch of evidence together that is very clear. Because even in the UK or in the United States or any country, non-European country, if you lodge it through the system and is rejected, we've got two options: just to lodge it over again, which obviously might cost money because I've seen the fees on the consulate are not very cheap, obviously, or just go through the appeal. The appeal from the home country where you're applying is exactly the same that the appeal that we're doing now, John, with all the TIEs. So the difference is the one from the non-European countries is Madrid, and the one for the TIE, it depends on every region that you are. But again, if any of the audience here went into this situation, I recommend them to study with their lawyer the possibility of appealing if they've been rejected and that pareja de hecho or register or common law partners was rejected. Because you have a good point, Richard. A lot of people at the moment have investments in Spain, but they did it according to the old regulation, never thought it was going to be necessary for the golden visa. And now, Pedro and myself, we're ending with situations which you need to do, not like a conveyancing, but pretty much so, because you really need to wind up the property situation here. If it's husband and wife, then just wind it up, put in one name, and obviously it needs to comply with the time frame. So it's a lot of work, and obviously it costs more money because you need to wind it up at the notary office, register. Yeah, Pedro?
Yeah, obviously, I mean, for example, some weeks ago, it was a couple of what they wanted to do to put, for example, the property in the name of one of them. So that's perfect. That's okay. At the end, we apply for one of them, the golden visa, and the spouse is like a family member. I do not need to change the matrimonial regime. That's all. But the situation is that one of them owns the property and not both of them. Instead of they wanted to be both of them, then we need to do what I said before, is just to change the situation on putting in the deed that both of them, as a matrimonial agreement, is the property is owned by both of them as a matrimonial. But yes, it's correct. I mean, about the civil partnership of a pareja de hecho is something that we highly recommend to have it done before, in order to have more evidence, in order to show that that is real. Yeah.
Yeah, over to you, John.
Can I just ask a quick question on the same thread there? So in the UK specifically, there is civil partnership. Is that civil partnership, which is a registration document of partnership, fully recognized in Spain?
Obviously, the application will be lodged through the Spanish consulate, right? And the Spanish consulate will accept, my understanding, and correct Pedro if I'm wrong, that will be a good evidence, and there will be no reason to reject it, because you cannot ask the expat to have a legalized here registration if it's valid in the UK, right?
Yep.
So if he's registered in the UK or in America or Canada, wherever non-European country, I will feel comfortable to lodge it through. Whether we need to end up going through the courts because they reject it down to their own interpretation, okay, that's a different story. The problem I find here is guaranteeing, John, people the outcome. The more grey, the more difficult to guarantee, because who are you going to speak to? Are you going to speak to this policeman or the other, or that consulate in London, or that in Manchester, or probably in Houston? You know, we know them because we deal with a lot of applications, and we know their own books in a way. That doesn't mean it's correct. You, John, know the Extranjería in Alicante, what's going on a weekly basis. So that means pretty much a lot of information for you, but guaranteeing is hard. I encourage people to do things in advance, as Pedro stated, do tax planning as well in advance. We've got a lot of questions here as well in the channel, here in the chat about, well, obviously, immigration and tax planning. But John, going back to the main question, I will lodge it through. Obviously, there is no 100% guarantee, but that could be defended through the courts. I know clients do not want to take it to court, and we need to avoid all that situation. I mean, it's not good for me to say, well, if that doesn't go through, go to the court. You don't have the time, probably neither the money, to start spending time just to come here. But sometimes things and requirements or resolutions are so difficult to you know, if you end up having that public functionary saying, sorry, I reject it, what else could you do? Which is basically what's happening with the TIE. Why now are we getting the resolution saying you didn't have the insurance at the time, now you're rejected? Well, I had the 𝐸𝐸 card and I was covered. Well, probably you were more than 3 months with the 𝐸𝐸 card. So now the appeals that we're dealing with, John, we are facing this scenario, people who comply with everything. I've got police reports, I've got witness statements, I've got rental contracts, I've got health insurance. Oops, but the health insurance is not dated from the 2020. All right, and here we go. And there is no doctrine on that. So let's try to avoid a court case, but if the worst came to the worst, let's face it, because so far I'm confident courts are obviously being very, very reasonable, and I'm happy with that. Do you have any other questions, or shall we just go in the chat, because we could be running out of time due to the amount of questions we have? Shall we start, or Richard, do you have any other question from Brexpats and John?
Well, the only other one that I raised, it's a very quick one. We get a lot of people saying to us, look, I've got an S1, you know the S, yeah, which is health cover in Spain. Why is it not accepted when I apply for residencia?
Actually, that's a good question, Richard, but probably, do you have the cases that has been rejected because they didn't have the S1, correct? Is that what happened?
Yeah, we know of a number of cases where they've got it.
Right. The problem we have here with, in some cases as well, Richard, I recommend to have a convenio especial, right? Obviously, you cannot have convenio especial if you haven't been here more than a year, padron. And obviously, if you already have the S1, you will never get the convenio especial. So, well, the S1 is accepted, but I think Social Security requests the residency. So it's the catch-22. Is here, you know.
Which came first, the chicken or the egg? My recommendation in this circumstance is try over and over different reasonable amount of time through the normal procedure, administrative procedure. And if that fails, probably once you do all the grounds, because what we normally do, Richard, people who's been bumping with the different tries, we try to do it very, very accurate. Once we get a rejection, we don't even appeal through the Extranjería city office. We just go straight to the court, ask for a preliminary measure,
so temporary residency card, because there is a presumption you comply with all the requirements. Normally, Richard, with things that you and John know should pass the petition if everything is put right, and then let the judge to understand that you had health cover, because I've got different cases here, Richard, that they had the 𝐸𝐸𝐞, right, which was covered. They didn't have an insurance, but they had the European card, health card, that it was valid. My only question is, would that be valid if it's more than 3 months, Richard? And here,
no.
so this is where we are through the appeal systems at this stage. I'm just claiming to say they had the 𝐸𝐸𝐞 card, so they were covered, and now in 2021 they've got the insurance. So what is the reason you're rejecting? And I've got a feeling, Richard, that it will be successful just because it's reasonable, okay? And the law doesn't. Right. Pedro, would you like to start with questions? I mean, we've got here Alison making some questions. I think she's an American. As a US citizen, I've read that I can enter and stay in Spain for a maximum of 90 days without a visa. When does the clock start? Is it per calendar year? My husband and I travel the southern coast August 16th to September 9th of this year. And we're planning to return early 2022 for just 90 days. Would the days we spend in Spain, August, September, be counted as part of our total days in January, February, March 2022? And second question, is it 90 days out of 183 days or 90 days out of the whole year? I don't know if, Pedro, do you want to take that or I'll just go for it?
Let me,
how it works.
I don't know it very well right now, but let me read it. Obviously, the question is regarding, I mean, when it counts, when it starts counting the 90 days.
Yes, correct.
The key point is really 90 days into 180 days. Into the 180 that comes to Spain, starts the clock.
Yeah.
When entry is in Spain, it starts the clock of 180 days. 180 days, and if you spend more than 90 days, you have to get out of the country and wait another 90 days out in order to be able to enter again in Spain. So it is. The question is 90 days without, when does the clock start? Whenever you enter, whenever you get a visa in order to enter in Spain, and whenever you enter in Spain, it will start the 90 days period. Well, 90 days, it's got the 180 days really, and whatever 90 days you spend in the middle of that 180, that will be counted. Let's say my husband and I traveled to southern coast this year. We're planning to return for just under 90 days. Okay.
Let me just add one thing, Pedro. People get confused. People get confused with 183 and 180. 183 exactly. Is a tax.
That's it. This is the second question. Obviously, the 183 days nothing to do with 180. Nothing to do. I mean, 183 days is the middle. Is really 182. 183 is like 366. It will be like the double of 183. So it's more than 1 day in the years where the year is 365. And it's for tax purposes. If you spend more than 183 days in Spain on a natural year from the 1st of January to the 31st of December, then it counts that you are tax resident.
Correct. But the immigration, Pedro, they get confused. The tax goes from January to December, but the immigration doesn't have a calendar year. That's the question.
Exactly. For example, let's put that point at non-lucrative visa. When someone applies for a non-lucrative visa and obtains the residency of visa in order to enter in Spain, and then obtains, I mean, whenever it comes to Spain, is given 90 days visa in order to enter in Spain with a positive resolution from the immigration office, then whenever he's entering in Spain, that day will count as a first day of residency. Okay.
Right. Okay. Well, I don't know if John or Richard wants to add anything. Just feel free to just jump onto it. But again, please don't get confused. One thing is a tax. One thing is the immigration. The immigration is maximum, obviously 180 days and 90, and then 90 within 6, and then 90 within another 6. Okay. Now, we've got questions here, Pedro, about non-lucrative visa. Here, Jack is saying that he says that you need to have minimum funds, salaried or otherwise. I have the funds available, but they are not in my bank account. I am currently in Spain and my 90 days expire in a few days. I have the funds transferred to my Spanish bank account. Can I apply in country or do I need to apply from a UK, Pedro?
Needs to be applied in the UK. It needs to be there submitted in the UK. If the 90 days is expiring, he has to go back into the UK. I mean, cannot be applied here and cannot be suspended the application or the staying in Spain. He has to go back to UK and apply for that and wait.
Mm-hmm. And Pedro, he carries on asking, do they need to be in the bank account? How long do they need to be in the bank account, Pedro?
Well,
is it minimum 6 months?
Yeah, exactly. Regularly, the documents that is applied, the financial means is 6 months from the submission date or from whenever it's possible to obviously to get these documents before application. Minimum 6 months. What I like is as much as possible. Obviously, this is again a matter of proof. As much savings on ISA or the key point really is you need to demonstrate that you have access to that money. Does the money needs to be in a Spanish bank account? No. You need to demonstrate that it's in a bank account that you have access in order to be able to live in Spain without working. If the money is in Spain, perfect. That's perfect. If the money is in a different country or different bank, different country, that's okay. But we have to, all the documents needs to certifications where the money is and the last 6 months in order to avoid fraud, because what the immigration office wants to check is that you have had that money a lot of time, minimum 6 months, in order to show that it's not being given by some friend and then pay back, really.
Right. Okay, Pedro, thank you. Alison, I think we made it clear here that, and I think it's a good decision, and I always say to clients, and a lot of Americans do it, they just come for 3 months, they try to acclimatize themselves into Spain, make everything properly, get a rental contract, go back, and then start the process from the US. This is a good option and a good thing I recommend, because sometimes it's too stressful to do everything from the home country. We've got Richard here. He says, my wife and I have taken Spanish nationality, but my daughter, who's culturally and emotionally Spanish, but has a British passport and has lived in Italy for 8 years. Is there anything she can do to avoid the 90 days rule, Pedro? As far as I know, I mean, Richard, you will need to confirm what is her age. Probably she's legal age. If she's legal age over 18 and probably even over 21, she's not a dependent. She's just an independent British citizen. But probably if she has lived in Italy for 8 years, I'm pretty sure she did apply for the European residency. And what I might suggest, Richard, to your daughter is probably to look into the process of exchanging the European residency from one country to another country, because she might have a residency in Italy, and now is a matter of complying with the Spanish requirements, transferring all that right, because she was a resident, a European resident in Italy, and now she needs to exchange that, I think it's a blue card, what they call it here, to have the same right. So I will go down in that road, Richard, and I'm happy to discuss it further with a more specific information in a video conference. Okay, right. Clive has here, Clive is saying, I'm in the process of buying a property in Spain and I hope to move there in 2022 on a non-lucrative visa. What restrictions are there on taking items of movable personal property to Spain? Car, furniture, computing equipment, are import taxes payable? I don't know if anyone wants to take it, Richard or John. Basically, everything that is personal and I'm not sure about the amount. I'm not sure if it's 10,000 euros, which I think it is. But everything that you could prove is personal things will not have any import taxes. Okay. Yes, Richard.
People, we are aware of people having their personal goods, which are in a van coming out to Spain when they move over, being stopped at customs, and every item has been gone through and they've had to prove how long they've had it. In other words, if it's been bought in the last week, they're copping tax. If it's been purchased years ago, that's fine. My point would be, how many people keep receipts for a piece of furniture bought 20 years ago?
Now, at the end, Richard, we just need to claim here on what is reasonable and what is not reasonable. You know, at the end of the day, if you're able to prove personal belongings, then that's it, basically. Okay, let's move on here. Guys saying, perhaps not related to the topic of this webinar, I'm in the process of renewing my first non-lucrative visa. I have private insurance as required, but I need public insurance so I can get vaccine passport. I'm allowed to enroll for this public insurance, even if I don't use it, other than to get the passport. I think, Richard, what they're saying here is that they want to be in the health system public is convenio especial, correct? Let me just explain, Guy, what it is. If you've been here more than a year with a residencia and you're in the padron more than a year and you still don't have your public health covered here, you could, you don't have an insurance, because some of you guys have it from, you have an international insurance that covers in Spain. You could connect in parallel to the health system in Spain, paying a flat fee. You pay 65 euros if you're below 65, and if you're over 65, I think, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, John, is 165, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, it's around that sort of figure once you make that leap into the next step. Yeah.
Right, and I recommend a lot of clients as well just to do one first year to the private, and then it's very personal decision. If after the first year you want to have both public and private, that's fine. If by any reason you just want to drop one and have the social security, that's fine. Okay, so it's very personal, but depending on your personal health and how you feel. Some clients feel very comfortable with the private because they speak English and it's close to their home and they're used to it, fine. Some people, they say Centro de Salud is perfect, then you could drop, okay, but only after 1 year, okay? So that's a good, important thing. Then we have Mike, and he's saying here, I have my non-lucrative visa issued by Spanish Consulate in Manchester, along with a completed Modelo 790. My problem with the relevant, I don't know if John understands ODE.
Oficina de Extranjería.
All right. In Las Palmas, Gran Canaria, is later this month. Will I need another Modelo 790 for that session?
You want me to
over
take
to you,
this
John?
one?
Yes, please.
So specifically for your non-lucrative visa, remember one thing, Mike, and it is critical, and I'm going to say it from the very beginning. You must, after your arrival, have done this transaction within 30 days of arrival. You'll need to present your visa with a certificado de empadronamiento, which is a padron certificate, as we fondly call it. And yes, you need to have paid a tasa, sorry, it's not 12 euros. It's a different tasa for a first-time T card issued under this regime. This applies to anyone of the third country visas, and it is a slightly different tasa paid via a Modelo 790012. Hope that answers the question.
Thank you, John. That's good. I have here another question from Michael. Have a non-lucrative visa. I don't know what nationality he is. Probably he's British. I need to spend minimum 180 days in Spain. Well, minimum you need to be more than 6 months. That's correct. If I am working in Europe, Iceland, does this count towards those days? The non-lucrative, yeah, you need to spend minimum 6 months here, but then if you're gonna work in Iceland, and then you're a tax resident in Spain, is going to make it a complex situation. And he's asking, can you add family members to visa later? Okay, well, the non-lucrative visa is independent per member. Okay, then you need to spend minimum 6 months here in Spain. And that means, as Pedro stated, spending minimum 6 months and complying with the tax regime here in Spain. If you're working in Europe, technically the answer, when you do the application from the non-lucrative visa, they will discover that you're working abroad. And my experience so far is when they identify you're working, they will reject it. Okay, but again, part of experience here and given and trying, my straight answer, and from the experience that I've seen, is likely, for example, some consulate will say, you're still working, this is a non-lucrative visa, and they're going to make questions to you. Okay, so it is a good question with a difficult answer. But definitely in Spain, you cannot work. And if they identify that you're working abroad, they're going to say, are you really going to work over there, et cetera, et cetera. So it needs, Michael, it needs a discussion that and to be look into every single details. Let's move on. Jeff is asking, I have looked at the alternatives for being able to travel to Spain on a regular basis, but within the rules at present. It seems that the one that suits us is the pensioners visa, non-lucrative visa. Perhaps you can discuss with us at the meeting, so many fall into the bracket. Well, yes, I agree, Jeff. There is a lot of tape with it, and I could give you the general reference, but little things as we discuss it, we could recommend you to do one thing or the other. So yes, we're happy to do a private appointment and discuss your personal situation. We could discuss it, all these questions that you might have. Okay, John and Richard, if you want to add anything.
Yeah,
yes,
many swallows, this is the people with property out here who like to come out for a few months ago, have been advised by some organisations to get a non-lucrative visa. A non-lucrative visa, we need to put this quite succinctly, is not suitable for swallows. It's not designed for swallows. It is designed for people who wish to come to Spain, live permanently, and really are pensioners. The colloquialism is, it's the pensioner's visa.
That's correct. That's correct. Okay, John, anything else?
No, nothing to add to that.
Okay. Then we have here chat for American wishing to retire to Spain, are US Social Security benefits and distribution from 401k or IRA taxable in Spain? Okay, my understanding, I think I'll need to look into it, but it will be taxable in Spain minus the double taxation treaty, whatever is taxed in the US. With regards to Americans, I always recommend in general terms, okay, don't take it as it is, but in general terms, it's better to do it first in Spain and then declare it in the US. In the US, you always pay income tax return for being national, and therefore it's always best to do it in the residency country, which you pay the tax and then you deduct it. Because I found the situation where some people they've got a tax credit from the US, but since they could never claim it to Spain. So the problem is, if you do it first over there, you end up paying, we do it here, and then they'll say, I'll give it to you later, next year, the following year. But the problem is, if they don't retain you any money, it's hard for them to give it to you back. So that's why it's better to alter the declaration in this respect. Now, I don't know if John and Richard, if you could select any other important questions that we have, because we're running out of time. Richard, if you could just flick through and because we have a lot of them, and probably might be interesting.
I think we need to clear one up here from Alison. She says, for a married couple, your investments must be at least 100,000 euros to get a golden visa. We need to correct that. It's 500,000, and that for a married couple is also not correct. It depends, as we discussed earlier. So that, if people are reading it, is wrong.
Okay. John, anything else?
A question that has been brought up is, any idea when the digital nomad visa will be finalized and introduced? The clear answer at the moment is no. We have no clear pathway or idea. There's no guidance from central government in Spain as to when that will finish.
Right. Thank you, John. Pedro said he had to leave, so he says goodbye here. I know they are very much interesting questions, and we'll be delighted to join you on a private basis, or probably do and calling on another webinar for a specific. We try to give you general advice here, but it all ends up into a very specific, especially the gray areas, the situations which we need to discuss, and probably there is no doctrine at the moment. As a general topic here, I will say, try to keep all evidence in place. That's the number one advice I will always recommend you. Try to do it perfectly from the very beginning, and then try to see your options. Okay, that's a recommendation from us. We've been working for the non-Europeans many years, because not many law firms did, and we start doing that because of the need. Now the Brits end up into this trap situation, and then we are helping a lot along with Richard and John. My recommendation, and then here you will see some videos on the immigration blog that we have. I try to give you some tips on how to lodge things, but when it goes into very grey things, unfortunately, you might end up with a situation that the police station of your city may reject it. So you need to prepare the case for a court case. And if you're applying from abroad, from the UK or the US or any home country, non-European, you might have the same problem. So you might lodge the application through, and they might say no. And then here we go, we'll have to do the appeal in Madrid, because you can only do it in Madrid, but it's not a problem at all. Okay, you don't need to fly over to do the appeals. And normally here with the TIE, what we are trying to do to give a little bit more of power to the court case is, since you guys are here, have a hearing with the witness, with the mayor, with the neighbor, trying to bring witness to say this is true. Okay, I'm confident, John and Richard, that the courts will protect the European citizen under the withdrawal agreement, and even for those who are applying now on a non-lucrative visa, golden visa, because the judges are very straight and very fair, I should say. Okay, so I'm proud to say that, even though the administration works, as you know, on a different thing. I'll give you, Richard, the last word now. Over to you to say whatever you need to say to the audience. Richard?
Well, I'd like to first say thank you very much. And I hope this has been helpful to people. There's many questions we didn't get round to. So maybe we can do another one, Ignacio. There's lots of questions here. There's one question very quickly that I can cover. Somebody took a flight into Alicante Airport last Saturday. No police were there to stamp the passports, etc. No customs. Doesn't matter. Your passports are electronic. Your arrival in Spain will have been noted electronically. So the 90 days does stand. Again, thank you. I hope we've helped people, and that's it really from me.
Thank you, Richard. Over to you, John.
Yeah, thank you everyone for looking at it. There is more things we could say. We could go on all night long, but there is one point I'm going to leave you with all these different visa processes or processes that you're carrying throughout Spain. Everything you do in Spain is time sensitive. Remember, you have deadlines. Follow those deadlines to the letter because they generally don't give you an extension. And that's my top tip.
Okay. Well, thank you, John. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Brexpats in Spain. Thank you to our clients for listening. And as we said, we'll carry on giving the expat community the best advice we're able to give on a weekly basis, a monthly basis. I'm going to put you through it now with Juan Fran. He's got a video about Costa Blanca. For you who don't know yet Costa Blanca, you are able to just fly for 1 minute video and looking forward to seeing you all here. Okay, over to you, Juan Fran.
Maybe because I was born on the Mediterranean, I feel so connected to this sea, to this land, to this light. Because the Costa Blanca is my passion, it's my life, it's who I am. It defines me as a person and sets me apart from the rest. Yes, it's important not to forget who we are and where we come from. That helps us understand the meaning of our lives. By this sea I was born and grew up, laughed and cried too, the emotions of life. Our land is health and well-being, the joy of living, in our own way, in our own style, authentic. That's why so many artists come to the Costa Blanca looking for inspiration, to capture the essence, that light that defines our character, and not just artists. So many people come here and stay. The sky, the landscape, the rosy sunsets, the warm sand under your feet, the sea breeze on your skin, the mountains and seeing the sea from the heights. I love to close my eyes, take a deep breath and feel the sun on my eyelids. As if the light was inside me. I can't explain it. As my grandmother used to say, life is full of inexplicable things. You have to live them, feel them. I had to live in other parts of the world to really value what we have here. I have everything I need. My future is here. I've learned to enjoy the little things, the little pleasures in life. And we know a lot about those. There's nothing more authentic than feeling happy in the place where you were born. And however hard I try, I can't explain it in words. Costa Blanca, authentically ours.